Young men today wake up every single morning already under an invisible siege. The weight presses in before your eyes even open. Bills stack higher than paychecks. Jobs vanish instantly. They demand more hours for less money. Relationships fracture under immense silence and pressure. Your body grows heavier, your mind slower, your future narrower. And the thing is, these forces don't announce themselves with warnings. They simply tighten. This explainer exposes a deeply engineered trap outlined in our source material. It's a framework of silent extraction. The very first real danger you face is the quiet surrender. One day you stop believing the goals you whispered to yourself. The next day you simply stop trying. You'll tell yourself it's just burnout. You'll tell yourself it's just bad luck. But our analysis of this framework reveals something far more chilling. You are being conditioned. This isn't a random series of unfortunate events. It's a calculated process designed to extract the very last drop of your ambition. And the most terrifying part? The ultimate cost isn't just your future. It's the future of those who come after you.
The tension is rising because nothing stays still. Every small failure compounds. Sleep shortens, anger hardens, hope thins out. What looks like ordinary hardship is actually a signal. These conditions are not random noise. They're the opening stage of a deeper pattern that has systematically broken generations of men before you. We have to immediately ask what this escalating hardship is actually engineered to extract from you. This is an extraction of will, an extraction of power. The framework we're exploring posits that systems require fuel to operate. Your energy, your compliance, and your silence are that fuel. The pressure you feel in your chest when you look at your bank account, or when you face another dead-end directive at work, is designed to wear down your psychological defenses. It's a test to see exactly how much weight you will carry before you drop your hands and stop fighting back.
The source material identifies three primary forces closing in to construct this cage: the government, your parents, and employers. You need to understand the mechanisms at play here. Government decisions reshape the ground under your feet overnight, altering the cost of living and the value of your labor before you can even react. Parents, who once represented safety, are identified as carrying their own broken stories and unresolved emotional debts into the house, passing their unfinished pain directly onto you. Employers increasingly treat you as disposable numbers on a spreadsheet, demanding extreme loyalty while offering absolutely zero in return. None of these forces are imaginary. They are very, very real. They build the walls. But the trap only works if you lock the door yourself. They create an environment where the easiest, most rational-seeming option is the quiet surrender of your whispered goals.
Part 1. The Trap of Blame. External blows.
Society traps you in this absolutely brutal contradiction. You're relentlessly told to be strong. You're told to be independent, to be a provider, to be stoic. But every traditional structure that once taught that strength has been actively stripped away. True independence has been made incredibly, systematically expensive. You are literally priced out of autonomy. And in that gap between what is demanded of you and what is actually allowed for you, you're flooded with endless, cheap distractions, algorithmic feeds, endless entertainment, digital noise. These are designed specifically to paralyze you, to keep your eyes locked on a screen while your real-world power evaporates. The more you struggle against this brutal contradiction, the more you're told the struggle is your fault alone, or the government's fault alone, or your parents' fault alone.
Here is the psychological trap the source material warns against. The moment you point at the government or employers for your pain, you surrender your remaining power directly to them. First comes the external blow, then comes the internal response. Under immense pressure, most men reach for the easiest shield available. They blame, they complain. They point at the government for economic decisions that close doors. They point at parents for psychological wounds carried forward. They point at employers for ruthless exploitation. This temporary comfort of blame feels exactly like control. It feels like you're taking a stand by identifying the enemy, but it's a complete illusion. Blame hands the steering wheel to the exact forces already crushing you. By defining your life entirely by what they've done to you, you agree that they are the authors of your future.
Part 2. The Slow Collapse. Total Defeat.
This surrender triggers a brutal and strategic sequence of psychological decay. The external blow successfully transforms into internal collapse. Step 1. You stop attempting hard goals because the pain of failure hurts too much. You convince yourself that trying is a fool's errand in a rigged system. You avoid risk entirely, but the pain arrives anyway, as deep, agonizing stagnation. Step 2. Your mind seeks only comfort. Distraction entirely replaces discipline. You trade building a future for the immediate numbing relief of a screen, a substance, or endless sleep. The body that once carried raw ambition now simply carries the weight of unused potential. Step 3 is the final nail. You fully surrender to the framework. You genuinely believe the government, parents, and employers hold the only real keys to your life. You stop looking for a way out because you've convinced yourself the walls are too high. The trap snaps completely shut.
The source material breaks down exactly how this extraction operates. Look at the mechanics of this exchange. The government shapes housing, education debt, and the value of your labor. When you surrender your agency, they extract a predictable citizen. They extract a quiet, manageable voter who relies on them for survival. Parents shape the emotional language given or denied to you. When you surrender, they extract an unquestioning carrier of their unfinished pain. You bear the weight of their history so they don't have to. Employers shape the daily proof of whether your effort actually matters. When you surrender, they extract compliant labor, they get bodies over minds. Men who will clock in, follow orders, and never demand a share of the actual power. This pattern isn't emotional, it is highly, ruthlessly strategic. Power systems win entirely when you stop believing you can change your condition.
When you refuse to meet unavoidable adversity, it doesn't just evaporate, it settles deep inside you and becomes your very identity. You begin to think avoidance is wisdom. You think staying small is safety. You tell yourself you're just being realistic about how the world works. But history and human psychology prove you violently wrong. When men avoid adversity, it infects them. It rots the foundation of their self-respect. The man who once wanted more, who once had fire and vision, now settles for less and calls it realism. The slow collapse of will isn't a loud explosion. It's a quiet, tragic fade.
Part 3. Systems that benefit. Powerlessness.
We have to ruthlessly analyze who profits when your ambition dies and your power vanishes. The true danger presented in this framework isn't a dramatic, sudden collapse. The danger is the slow, invisible normalization of powerlessness. These systems absolutely do not want your strength. The government wants predictability. Parents want their trauma unquestioned. Employers want ambition trained out of you entirely. A generation of men who will not claim their own lives becomes a generation perfectly available for use. You become a raw resource. You become the ultimate silent consumer, buying cheap dopamine to forget your lack of agency. The relentless judgments and criticisms directed at you are strategically designed to keep you inside the boundaries that other people find profitable and comfortable.
The absolute terror of this pattern is that it does not stay with you. This is the rising, catastrophic consequence the source material builds toward. In the present moment, the temporary relief of blame feels like truth. It feels justified. In the near future, your powerlessness becomes totally normalized. It just becomes who you are. And then, the true horror sets in. The exact same forces you blamed, the government, parents, employers, are now the forces shaping the lives of the children you might one day have. Because you refuse to build your own strength, you have no shelter to offer them. The intergenerational transfer is complete. You misread the moment, you chose comfort over responsibility, and you become the very force that will crush the next generation. They become the ultimate victims of your comfort.
Part 4. The 3 paths forward. Inescapable choice. So the tension breaks right here, leaving you staring down 3 distinct, inescapable choices outlined in our framework. You cannot abstain. History has watched this choice before. Path 1 is the continuation of your current trajectory. Power concentrates deeper in the hands already crushing you. You keep handing responsibility outward. You blame a system. The weight grows. Your internal collapse accelerates day by day. You wake up 10 years from now, entirely hollowed out, serving as the quiet, obedient foundation that larger oppressive structures rest upon. You are fully consumed by the machine.
Path 2 demands a terrifying psychological pivot. You must reject the false comfort of blame and begin the quiet, ruthless acquisition of power. You use the daily pressure as a forge for your skills. The man who cannot instantly transform his employer uses the daily, crushing pressure of that job to forge unshakable, unbreakable discipline. The man who cannot rewrite his parents' history absolutely refuses to let that history write his future. You stop looking away. You look at your fear, your aggression, your profound self-doubt without flinching. You treat the invisible siege not as an excuse to die, but as the exact training ground required to live. This is the quiet acquisition of absolute power over your own reactions.
Path 3 is exceedingly dangerous to the systems currently in place. It's the massive systemic threat that occurs when a generation wakes up. It is the coordinated pressure created when enough young men stop explaining themselves by their wounds and force a massive power shift. This is where goals stop being private fantasies and become structural realities. If enough young men claim full, uncompromising responsibility at the exact same time, the government, parents, and employers entirely lose their leverage. The grip is broken. They can no longer extract compliance through fear. power forcibly shifts back to you, dismantling the siege from the inside out.
Part 5. The final choice. Time is running out.
Every single day spent explaining your life by the actions of the government, your parents, or employers is a day the trap tightens. It leaves you to face a chilling, unresolved outcome. The young man who feels most crushed by government decisions, parental failures, and employer indifference is the exact and only person who can decide what happens next. Will those forces consume you, or will you use them as the anvil to forge your own character? The siege is invisible, but it is real. The collapse is strategic, but it is not inevitable. Look at the path beneath your feet right now. Where is it leading you?